Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Hear Me Out podcast. Happy New Year! I hope you've all had a great Christmas and New Year's break. Obviously been gone for a minute, but we're back. Um, which I feel like you guys hear that from me all the time, but it's okay. At least I keep coming back every time I go away. So today's episode of the podcast, I'm actually quite excited. I've got a special guest with me. Because I wasn't sure if I wanted to like introduce her first or like whatever, just have banter, but might as well just introduce her because I feel like she's iconic. So it's like might as well do that. So on the podcast today, on Hear Me Out, we've got none we've got the OG mama of the house, my mom. What's up, mommy? Welcome, mama.
Thank you. Thank you.
Why you being
I want to be a gentlewoman.
let me just say this. All of this sweet, sweet, sweet voice that you're gonna hear today, Abba, in the house is a different tone. But no, Allah, do your thing.
Me, I still the same person. When it's to raise voice, I raise. When it is to lower voice, I lower my voice. So,
Okay.
your mom doesn't play pretense. You know that.
She's not a pretender,
Yeah.
like you say. But yeah, thank you, Mom, for coming on the podcast. I'm really excited for our discussion today, which is here's the thing. I think like me and my mom have DMCs all the time, have some really, I think, thought-provoking, meaningful conversations. So I think it would be like worthwhile to have her as a reoccurring guest on the podcast, sharing her opinion and just views on certain things, and also just to show that intergenerational like perspective of like what, and also like me being, I guess, what you would call first generation New Zealander, and then my mom coming as a migrant, but me being like someone who's like really raised here, that different perspective. But I'm trying this new thing out for the pod. Mom, what is your song of the week?
My song of the week is Bisengo ya Lola by Mike Kalambai. Sengalele, tuzengnele mukunzi. Hey, sengalele, tuzabinele mukunzi.
If you guys knew the way this woman, like every time, have you heard that new Michael Lambert song? And I'm like, bro, like, no. I'm like, and it's not that I don't like Michael Lambert. It's just like I just haven't heard it. So I also sometimes can't be bothered. But she played it. She forced me to play it on our loudspeaker in the house like last week. Last week it was actually good, but I was actually dancing upstairs. I don't want you to see me dancing. I was in the mirror just going, yeah.
You see, when I was telling you, you will love this song. You're doing like you're pretending like you didn't like it.
Yeah, whatever.
Oh my goodness.
My song of the week is, hey, let me see if I can speak the français. Hey, mon choix.
Yeah.
That's it properly.
Yeah, you said
Okay,
it right.
gang. Look at me with the parlez-vous français. Let's go, baby. Okay. Mon choix by Daniel Mwanza. Daniel Mwanza.
Daniel Mwanza.
Mwanza. Like Kasai.
Not Mwanza. I don't know.
It's Mwanza.
Mwanza.
M.
Yeah, I know Mwanza.
Yeah.
Many people, when it comes to names, I don't know if it's Kasai, if it's
yeah, fair enough.
any other person. So yeah, it can be anybody.
This song is like has been on repeat for me. It's just really beautiful, like the way he does it. I really like his songs. Really, really awesome gospel artist. So, shout out to him still. So I'm so ready to get this on the road. So today we are gonna be talking about what it's like to raise me. I want to know more about your experience. I want people to hear about your experience. Obviously, like we have these kind of conversations and like but I really want people out there to get a perspective of what it's like to be a Congolese woman raising a half Nigerian, half Congolese, loud, obnoxious, big personality child in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Obviously we don't have to go too much into like I won't ask too much intrusive questions because I know that there's certain things that the world doesn't need to know, but I do want to also like in a way just interview you, mommy, and just see like your perspective on certain things, and then we can also discuss like your perspective of raising children abroad and like what you think the difference could be potentially if you were to raise me back home. Because I know there's a lot of dialogue about which is it better to raise your children in Africa or Congo to be specific or Nigeria. As a half caste, I think we can speak on both.
Half caste.
I'm basically a half caste. I'm a half, double.
You are métis.
Tikanga, yeah. Metis wapi. Yeah, longwa.
Because you are half.
But yeah, so I just think I think also you can offer a nice nuanced perspective considering that like you also did raise me in multiple different countries while you and Papa were doing missionary work. So I want to know more. So the big question is, how has it been raising me? Don't be shady.
No, I'm not being shady.
Yeah.
I just
No, I'm just saying, don't
excited.
start going and start saying, is this one she's headache, she's this, we know. The world knows. Okay?
Raising you, I can't say that it was that very difficult, and I can't say that it was that very easy. But it was just for me. I just look at it as it was just normal, normal.
Are you calling me normal?
Yeah, there's some, but that's why I say I can't say it was that very difficult, and also it wasn't that very easy, but it was just normal, but not just like normal. Yeah, it was like there's a time when it's like it's difficult, and there's time when it is just easy, just easy going. No hassle, no headache, those kind of stuff. You know. Yeah.
So like, would you say that did raising me? Obviously, you were raised back home in Congo, so obviously that's your experience. So like, using that experience of like how you were raised, did you imagine that this is how you would raise me?
That's a very good question. As I always said, I know I always tell you this.
Yeah.
And actually, it's one of the parts also I put on my book.
Yeah.
I love the way I'm raising you here.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it more than every other thing. Because we have that, there's a way we communicate, we act, we do things. That sometimes, if I raise you back home, I don't think so things will be the way we are here because of just the way we were also raised. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear that. So give me like an example of the thing that you really like about, so like us, like how do we communicate? Like how would you describe the way we communicate? If like another auntie was to come to you and was like, give me tips of like how you raised your daughter or whatever, like if you were to talk about communication with that auntie or that person, how would you describe it?
No, it just like, for example, between me and you, let's forget about the aunties, but it's just between me and you, being like, me be open to you. Every time, I always feel, since you're a child, I always say, talk to me. If there's any problem, no matter if you have done something wrong, tell me. It's better you tell me, I know, than I know from someone else.
Yeah.
So I was trying to build the trust between me and you, that you can trust me. And me also, I have to trust you. No matter what, I have to trust you. So that whenever you are telling me anything, I'll believe you. So that whenever I tell you also something, you believe me. That you won't say, nah, she's just saying because she want to say.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to say that. Oh, you just saying it because you want to say. So I wanted to build that trust between me and you.
You don't think parents in Congo could have raised their children like that?
I don't think so. Not all parents.
Of course not all, but like, don't you like? So you feel
if like me, for example, my personal experience, I would say my dad and my mom. My dad's his own part he played in my life was of that trust, of that no matter what, I can tell him anything. I was open to talk to my dad for anything than to talk to my mom.
Mm.
You see?
Mm.
I was communicating with my dad. I trusted my dad, and my dad trusted me. So I can tell him anything. I can share with my dad anything. When I say anything.
Yeah, I remember the story you told me about
Yeah.
when you saw your first
My
period.
first period. Yeah,
You went to
exactly.
tell your dad.
I went to tell my dad.
Instead of your mom.
Instead of my mom. Do you see how I trusted my dad?
Mm-hmm.
Because my dad was just so always willing to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Than compared to my mom. When you go to the, hey, get out. You like to talk too much. And then she just, and then because of that, I didn't like to go to her. So I go, but when you go to my dad, he will listen. But I don't know it is the case of everybody. Because seeing even some of my friends who were growing up, hard for them to talk to their parent, especially when it comes to their dad. When their dad come home, everyone disappear. If they are sitting in the living room, when as immediately as the father would just say, "Oh, my father is here,"
they run.
They all run. They all go. So that wasn't that in my case.
I've seen a trend on TikTok, where like specifically like I'll say African kids because they was like different. I know some were like South African, some of the Congolese, some were Nigerian, Liberian, whatever. So I'll conclude that and say African. So I saw like African kids on TikTok. They would post like it's like a video and they'll be like their siblings or like them in the living room watching TV, and then they're like, oh, when you hear your dad's car, and it's always the dad. It's like when, or sometimes it's the mom too. Yeah. But it'll be like when you hear dad pulling up and you would see them, they would like run to go to their room, and some of them were like, oh, stepdad, whatever. But some of them were like when you hear mom's car, when you hear dad's car pulling up, and then they want to like run to the room because they just don't want to be in their presence. And like I would say, I couldn't relate to those videos because for me, like I never felt that way with you, like that I would need to, not that I would need, but you weren't as what I feel like they would call nagging. You weren't nagging.
Yeah.
Or that parent that like it's just always war. Like you come home, you're in a bad mood. Not everybody has to be in a bad mood, and I feel like I didn't get that from you. So glory be to God for that one. But so like, what would be something that you feel like? Because okay, one question I do want to ask is like, so what's one thing that you feel like you could have done better? Actually, no, let's talk about what you've done right. What you think, and then I'll also share what I think.
Oh, the things I thought that I have done right with you.
Give me like 2.
Oh, just 2?
Yeah.
Excuse me. It's building that trust between us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Building that trust between us. Because if you come to me, you tell me anything, I already believe you. Anything you tell me, I believe you.
Yeah.
Up to now, anything you tell me, I know you are not lying. I know that what you are saying is the truth.
Yeah.
You're not lying.
Yeah.
So, and that is because the way we build our trust from when you were young, just trusted you, tell you something, you tell me, try to tell you that, build confidence. And also me being always making sure that you are so confident of yourself.
Yeah.
Because,
I will say, yeah.
Yeah. And then I remember when you always say, oh, my leg, man. I said, Favour, you have such a beautiful leg. If I have your leg, you don't know. And then you used to feel like because of maybe bully or something like that. But
yeah.
I always tell you are such a beautiful person. I always make sure that you are confident of yourself, and I put things in you and I say, hey, listen, nobody can match on your head. Nobody. Don't come here crying that somebody beat you or somebody says something to you. Somebody will say something to you, say to them back. Yeah.
I
do that.
finish it. They started, you finish it.
Yeah. Because if you look like you're a weak, seeing what other kids do to others, how they can put somebody down. And that can make somebody become lack of self-esteem. That's why I have to stand and tell you, don't provoke people, don't cause trouble. But if anybody provoke you or say something to you, say to them back. Don't cry. Don't come and complain. Just tell them when they say something. Just use that thing. Send that thing back to them. So send it back to them. So
back to the sender.
Back to the sender. Yeah.
I remember. Honestly, like I remember that so much. Like. So basically, to respond to what you've said, and like I would agree to both, but like for me, the 2 things that I feel like you did really well is like, yes, when you said in the sense of like building confidence in me, and like there's moments where I remember because when I first came to New Zealand, obviously, you know, I was bullied heavily on the school bus and stuff like that. And that was like the first like year and a bit. And I remember like I was so scared of the bus that you would start dropping me to school. Like when I went to Holy Cross Primary, you would literally like drop me to school all the time. Drop me and pick me up because I was so traumatized by how mean some of the kids were. And because I'm such a bubbly child anyway, so imagine like you're a bubbly child, but other people make you so scared to even speak. Like, and there was big kids on the bus, which I hated that it was mixed. It wasn't just all of us like primary kids. It was like we had St. Dom's and Liston people on the bus as well. So in the after all that just gave, it was like the anxiety of it all. And I remember even in the playground near where we lived, if kids bullied me, you would really just be like, let me tell you something. Go and say about my mom. I don't know what I say. But you see, now catch me with these hands. Now no one can mess with me. No, because people, I think that's got to the point where I got tough. I had to get tough.
You remember how I went to your school? I decided, I said, I'm not going to, I went to your school and I said, I want to talk to that kid. Yeah. And the principal and everyone, they say, no, I can't do that. I say, no, I have to do it. They say, no, it's against the law. I say, I'm going to break the law. I have to do that. So that next time, any kids who try with my children, you know that their mothers is there. So I was just trying to make that so that they tell the parent. And this is, I think since that, then, when I came to your school and then they have to call the parent of that, the boy who used to bully you.
Yeah, and the girl.
And the girl. So they called their parent and then they talked to them, and since then, all the story.
Well, then I stopped taking the bus.
And you stopped.
Well.
Yeah, you stopped taking the bus. But although they stopped, they were scared of you.
Well, yeah, I guess they also, and then I think what happened is like after that, like you know how boys are usually just mean to girls sometimes.
Yeah.
It got to this one point. I won't say her name, but there was this one student, you know her, Jamaican.
Yeah.
She came and I just saw how tough she was. She didn't let no kid, and we were young. We were like year 4. Year 4, year 5. Like she didn't let no kid come tell her nothing.
Yeah,
I remember one time she like pushed his leg and he fell to the ground and she said, try that again. Like she, and I remember that like,
you told me.
I was in awe. And I think that moment, I remember one time she turned to me, she goes, you need to, don't let these, she looked at me like, what are you doing? Letting these boys talk to you like that. And I was like, oh damn. And I think I got tougher. Like obviously you're still a child, so it's not like I got there and I was aggressive, but I think like I wouldn't use the word aggressive, but my confidence about myself increased even more because even when I had to move from St. Dom's to Rutherford, not knowing anybody like my ability to like make friends, because you let me be friendly, like you never stopped me from being a friendly child. Like you didn't be like, oh, why are you talking to those people? Like, you know, and you always tell me this, when I was younger, I would talk to anyone and everyone, just yappa. And I still have memories of talking to people who to this day don't know their name, never saw them again, but had whole conversation. And weirdly enough, and they would always be surprised with my age, because they'll be like, how old are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm 6. And they're like
4 or 3.
And I'm like, but you talk like you. They would think I'm 10. They would think I'm like 7, whatever, and they'd be surprised because I guess my vocabulary, I just talked a lot as a kid, and could talk about anything and talk about my dreams and what I see in my head and whatever, all that stuff. But yeah, I would say that the confidence that you gave me like allowed me to know that and this is such a blessing that if anything went wrong at school, I can come and tell you. You wouldn't turn to blame me.
Yeah.
So you would believe me. Yeah. And there's not a lot of kids, especially I would say African or Congolese, Nigerian kids that can say that like they know their parents would have their back. Like, and I love this about you is like nobody in the streets, no one in the community could come and tell you something that I did, and then you would just believe it like that.
Yeah.
Because you'd be like, well, and also you also were like, nobody should come and tell me about my child.
Yeah.
Which I loved. I think like especially the people in the community like feared you in that sense. They knew that like you can't just come to Mary and just be chatting about her child to her, because she's not gonna tolerate that.
Yeah.
And I think that was good, because there's a lot of complaints about like, you know, oh, the aunties, the uncles saw me. And here, I'll give you an example. I remember in high school, you allowed me to be friends with boys ever since I was young. Primary school, you know, I was friends with boys. It wasn't a thing for you. Even in high school, like, as long you were just like, just respect yourself, don't be stupid, right?
Yeah.
So even if I was at the mall and I was with like some of the boys that from other schools that I would hang out with, and usually I would be with like other friends that you know now, I wouldn't really be that scared if I saw like an uncle or an auntie from the community in the mall.
Yeah, sure.
Because although they might look at me and be like, what are you doing with this person? And then they'll be like, oh, because the boys themselves would run.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, that's an uncle from your community or an auntie. They would run because they're used to doing that for themselves.
Yeah.
And I just be like, bruh, what are they gonna what in the mall walking around? Like, what are they gonna do?
Yeah.
My mom knows that I'm here with you. Like, I don't understand. We're in the mall having a frozen drink. So I do appreciate that I never had to like just being a simple girl that can hang out with a boy wasn't that deep. And I really appreciate that because I think like there's not a lot of people that have that, but the two things that I wanted to say that I feel like you did really well in raising me, I would say one thing was how you like supported every little dream I had.
Yeah.
Anything. And I'm telling you, you know what it is? Let's not get emotional. We're not crying here today.
We're not.
We've done that already.
Yeah.
But I just think like there's been moments where I will sit with other people and we would talk about the upbringing, and everyone's like, African parents, all us kids, and we want to be like African parents, African parents. But then I would hear people be like, my dad never let me play these sports, or my mom never let me do that. And I'm sitting there like, bro, what is my mom Muzungu? Like, is my mom a Mundele? Like, is she what? No, because we always think it's only Muzungu or like Oyibo parents that want to do that for their children. They'll be like, oh, it's only Oyibo parents that let their, soccer moms. When you think about, the soccer mom, which black have you ever heard the notion of an African soccer mom? I've never really heard that, unless your child is like a celebrity, like a professional level athlete. But you never hear the notion of the African soccer mom or the African mom that, and that's not their fault, because at the same time, like most of the time they're going to these countries as immigrants. They're working so hard to try and provide for their children. They're working in and out, multiple jobs, doing clean. I remember when you were doing a cleaning job when we first came to New Zealand, and we would have to be in the car with you in the rain, and I would be scared because you couldn't leave us at home, but you had to do what you had to do. So I don't blame you guys, but one thing I will say is that although you also struggled and did what you had to do, you never stopped me from doing things that wasn't academic, and I genuinely appreciate it, because I feel like you allowed me to be who I am, which is I'm a creative person because you allowed me to find that outlet. God forbid you would have restricted that, and I would only have to figure that out as a 30-year-old woman who's depressed and didn't know what she wanted to do. Or maybe I would have been 30 and not reached my God-given purpose. Or like that, it would be so late that I would have missed out on so many memories that now that I have under my belt as a 23-year-old, because you let me be. You, like, guys, I don't think you understand. Unless it was a matter of like, we couldn't, even if we didn't have the money, my mom would try to figure out a way. But if it was something where it was like, baby, this is like, we cannot afford it. But if my mom can find a way to make sure she will save money, do whatever she can to make sure I do it, my mom did it. She allowed, and my mom, and one thing I love about you and how you raised me, you never brought it to my face to be like, you tried this thing one time, you stopped. Now you try that thing, so now you want to do it. You never held it to me.
That is why I always say, my decision was as a woman. I say the way I will raise my children. And how did this come into my head? My dad. Me, I talk more about my dad than to talk about my mom. My dad was such an amazing man. Because if you ask him that you want to do something, he will not say no. He will just support you, tell you, do it. If you didn't continue or you fail, he will not say, oh, you see, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. And then, no, he will not repeat that. He will just say, oh, things happen if you don't feel interest. Compared to my mother, my mother would say, why you don't want even to do this? But my dad was always being someone that encouraged. You can tell him your dream. You can say, this is what I want to do. This is, and then and so that also, he also built it in me.
you.
And also, when I said me, my children, they will have the best of the best.
Yeah.
I said, even because I always knew that I'll have money. I never see myself as someone that will not have money. I say, my children, they will have everything they want to do. I will allow them to do it. Nobody will stop me from not doing it. And that's how I did with you. Regardless, I didn't have money. And you want to do something. And one thing with me, I did not want to put you to do things that because I like them, and then you didn't like it. I say, do, no, I don't like that. Because I'm the kind of person, I don't like to be told to do. So, and also I want to raise you. I don't want this to be telling you to do things. I want you to do things that you feel like you love them, it help you, you feel happy. This same way, because me, I was treating you the way I wanted to be treated. Yeah.
Do you know and I think that's interesting, because I don't think a lot of parents think about that. Like sometimes, especially based on like and I'm speaking a lot from what I've seen online, but also like other African diasporan kids that I know, and when they share their stories of what is going on in their homes, I don't think parents think about that, because I think they want to project, because they feel like their kids are not entitled to have. So because their parents weren't understanding, they feel like, why do I have to be understanding to you?
No.
Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think although maybe sometimes the perspective should have been, because I didn't have this, I want to make sure that my kids do have it. So like, because I wasn't able to ask questions, I want my kids to ask questions. Or I couldn't try out things, I want my kids to try out things. And I'm just grateful that you let me do everything. And guys, like I said, I played so many different sports you don't even know. I've played sports. Was I good at all of them? No, but I played sports. My mom didn't stop me from playing the sports. I played the saxophone. Did I continue with that? Not a lot, but when I did it, we had to pick an instrument. I picked probably one of the most expensive instruments. My mom still said, okay, that's fine. I wanted to do acting. She took me to an agency. My mom, we've driven to far places for me to do a pageant. I said, Mommy, I want to do a pageant. She could have easily said, no, what is a pageant? What are you going to gain from it? She let me do it. She let me try so many things. Like, whatever it was at school, I was production. I'm there. I was Samoan after it was like Samoan homework group. Samoan. I remember Samoan homework breaking Holocaust. Mom let me do it, because you could have easily said, you're not Samoan. Why do you need to go?
And we are the first. You are the first.
I think I was like the only black kid. The only black kid that would go to
No. Later on, other kids also start joining just because of you. Because it was just for Samoan.
Yeah.
And then you said...
And it was funny, because it started off with like, because you would have to work late. So I'd be sitting on this and waiting for you. And then I think it was, at the time, her name was Miss Elika. Or was it Miss Asafo?
Miss Asafo. The one that went to...
Oh, well, I remember it was one of our teachers. She's someone, and she came and she was like, "What are you doing?" I was waiting for Mom. She goes, "Oh, come inside," because they always have food. So she would come and she's like, "Come inside and eat." Yeah. So she made me go inside and eat. And when you came to pick me up, I think she had a conversation with you, like, like if you're working late, she can come and be like, she can just come here. So. And obviously, thank God for their openness, but thank God for your openness to be like, oh, actually, this is such a great idea. Go and be with people, which was a great experience for me. So like, that's one thing, like, I'm grateful for, that you let me try everything, and you let me even do it in university, guys. You don't even, like, this wasn't just, there was only high school. No, she let me do, first of all, primary school, she let me join everything. Intermediate, she let me anything. High school, same thing. My mom said, you want this? Cool, we'll go get the equipment that we need for you to do it. Same thing in university. When I changed my mind about what I wanted to study multiple times, she didn't hold it to me. She just said, okay, but you need to know, like, what, she'd be like, is this what you want? Then try it then. Like, she never said, no, you can't change, because why are you changing? I started off with law, didn't want to do law, did global studies, didn't want to do global studies, and then tried philosophy and all the other stuff, didn't like it, and then found sociology. I did theology all the way through, but found sociology, and sociology and theology is like my first love. I love it so much. But if you didn't let me change, I wouldn't have found those things, and I honestly don't know if I would have graduated, and I don't know if I would have been as happy and proud of myself as I am now than if you were to force me because of like you. And I think the thing is like you also, your faith in God, I feel like you knew that I was gonna succeed in whatever thing I picked, so you weren't stressed. So you were kind of like, bro, if you end up being a sociologist or whatever, you'll be fine. Like God will make a way for you. And I think because you literally put my life in God's hand, like, and I know my mom, one thing my mom always tells me is that when I'd ask her like about certain things, she goes, honestly, I leave it up to God. She's like, she does the best that she can, but she really is like, God, you have to raise my children. You have to take care of my children. And I believe that he did. And also you let him do it. Because I think you could have prayed that prayer, but if you don't let him do it, then it's a prayer like that may just be in vain, because you're literally holding us in our hands and like in your hand and not letting us like expand and do whatever. And it shows up in, I know for Zoe as well, because Zoe has grown up in a home where like, you know, do what you got to do. There are moments where I will say this though, I do wish that you were a little bit more academically like strict with me, just because I feel like it would have helped me build like structure and how like, but it's also like I say that, but then now that I understand, you would have also projected what you think is the best way for me to study, and I feel like you doing that would have, it wouldn't have brought out the passion that I have now for education and education reform, because I think like that comes from like me being like, my mom was like, let me do me a lot of the time, and sometimes the letting me do me was not good because I didn't hand in my assignments sometimes, and then you would just be like like you, but there's a difference because you didn't like, you know, there's parents that really flug their children. I'm just saying, like, they couldn't come home and tell their parents that they got an achieved or a merit, but you never really did that. You were kind of like, that's good, but like next time let's see if we can get better. Which I really appreciate.
But it's still, you know, that's the things. You know, the things with me, be my personality is of those kind of people. I don't like to be told to do things. I just know how to do this. And when I do things on my own, I do it so happily with all my mind. And because of that, and that's how I always imagine my children. I always say, nah, I don't want those kind of mother to be forcing your children, you know, do this. You know, for me, just do your homework. And also being like me coming as a migrant, coming here, before I can think, I have to think from in my language before I can translate in English. So, and also the education system here being so different. Sometimes I always said, oh, I was very good at math. But when you show me your math, I say, I don't know this one. What is this? And problem solving. So I'm good with that. And whenever I said, nah, I don't know this one. I don't know. And you see, I spend a lot of money even to help because with math, you know, I buy mathematics.
I remember that.
$500 then. That was not a small money.
For me to and that was also a scam. If I may just say, they scammed you because
it's the American system. They say, oh, you know, it helps with children with math. I say my children are struggling with math. I have to do because that's what I was thinking that's my best way to do, and also telling you, Favour, you need to do your homework. But I wasn't like as you always say. You know you are not setting time. No, I didn't like it. Myself didn't like it, and I didn't want to do it on you. Of setting time. You need to do this. I hate up to now. I hate those kind of things, and I don't like. As I said, I just always thinking whatever I did not want somebody to do to me, I don't want to do it to someone, and I don't want to do because they are my children. I have to do this to them. No, I don't want that.
I think also that method, although like I did say that sometimes I feel like after getting diagnosed with ADD and knowing that like I had basically ADD and borderline ADHD like growing up as well, like because that showed up in my childhood, I feel like then either way that structure wouldn't have worked. Because it still doesn't work. Do you know, in my mind and how my mind is, it wouldn't have worked based on who I am. But I will say this, the other thing that like
can you take back that one you always say that you should have been more
come out from here, I beg. No.
Take it back because you see I did my best.
Hey, Maria. Tika.
I did my best.
Yeah. But you could have still told the girl to go and do her reading.
I always stood.
You could have.
You always said go and do your reading and they can make us sign your book. Sometimes you want to make me.
Do you know what I would do? Do you know what I used to do? Do you know what I used to do?
What is it?
Me, I will go and just write title of books. I haven't read it. You didn't even ask me what's the book about. You would just sign.
Yeah, that's the truth.
You're naughty.
Yeah.
You would just sign.
Because, at the time, also have a lot in my mind.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I don't blame
so
you. That's what I don't blame you.
Yeah.
But the one other thing that I was gonna say that I feel like you do really well, and this is not necessarily as to like how you raised me, but it is showing up, and I think this happened in your recent years. Obviously, let's not get it twisted. The woman could get angry. Don't get it twisted, and sometimes she can be on the defense sometimes. But I think as of recent years, your ability to be willing to listen and listen and also take feedback, because I think like at first you also was a little bit like defensive, and then you would see it as a personal attack on me being ungrateful. But like even now, like your willingness to hear my perspective on certain things, I've noticed it's like getting better. um it's like and I not and here's the truth, a lot of the time there's one girl on TikTok, when I say she was crying in the car because she said that she just got into an explosive fight with her mom because she was telling her mom about the traumatic things that her mom put her through. But her mom basically was just like denying it, saying, no, 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 no. And here's the thing, I know it's not easy.
Yeah.
After you have sacrificed your body, sacrificed your own will, your things that you want to do for yourself, for your children. Like, I don't downgrade that. But I also do think that there's room to acknowledge that there were times where parents miss.
Yeah.
And it's not always because they wanted to, maybe because they didn't know. But I think there's a importance in validating that there was a miss. And I think that there's been times where like you are open to acknowledging, okay, yeah, I can, or when I'm sharing something, you're willing to just sit down and listen. Because I think what I wish parents would know is that like sometimes when your children are telling you like things that you didn't do right, it's not always from a place of ungratefulness, but it's from a place sometimes to be like, I want you to know that like these certain things that you probably thought is not a problem is a problem because it's affecting me and how I maneuver in my life.
Yeah.
Because even the girl, when she was crying, she was like, this is why I can't keep relationships, even friendships. She struggles, trust issues, those things, they play out because of how, like, and here's the truth. That like trauma and all that stuff, like I don't like to like just use trauma on everything, but trauma is real, and there are some people who have experienced like extreme trauma that shows up, and how like I said, the children we talked about in the beginning, when they always have to leave because their father comes home. That's not a good dynamic to have.
It's not.
But
it's
if
not
sometimes
a good thing.
imagine if they were to sit down with their dad and be like, hey dad, I just want to let you know that like, every time you come home we run away because you're this. Now that dad will say, me, I do these things, instead of listening to what's being told, you want to list off what you do as a parent, and like, and I know that's a defense. It's a defense mechanism. Like you want to be like, but like I literally do all these things for you.
The thing is this. You see, me growing up in Africa, seeing how I was also raised and how things was, you cannot just go to your mother or your dad and tell them, hey, Papa, this is what you did wrong. Or tell your mother, Mama, this is what you did. You get beaten up. So we are raised like by keeping quiet. You don't tell your parent like it always the way we were raised is like parents never make mistake. They are like a superhuman being. They are like a spiritual being who doesn't make mistake, who are not a human. But that is very wrong way. They did not allow us to sit down to say, express yourself. How are you feeling? Oh, you come by yourself as a child. You say, Mama, you offend me. The way what you said to me, and it wasn't good. Like for example, parents like insulting their children, like say, you are so stupid. You are this. You are that. You see, all those kind of things, like saying bad, and all those negative things on their children, and those things impact their children, make their children become like less. They don't have a confidence on themselves, or the lack of a self-esteem. So, and then if you just that child, make it just stand and go, Mom, you are the one who contributed to my lack of self-esteem, because you always say to me, I'm stupid, I don't have brain, I am this, I am that. In Africa, you can say that.
Yeah.
You can kill. So then, because
She said,
immediately your parent will say that
murder.
also you are saying that I'm a witch. I know. They will say immediately, they will say, you know that. But now me, now so I want to talk about myself. So now me, now being with you, listening to watching movies, watching TV show, watching. I don't really listen to podcasts, but watching and listening to preachers. There's some preachers when they speak. Oh my goodness. Say, whoa, no. This, you gasp something. You know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Because and then when they talk about our relationship between God and with us. With God, we can go, we can say anything that we want. Is it not our Father? So why won't we allow our children to say things? When we are angry with God about something that didn't work in our life, even though it's not his fault, we still say it. We still go to God and we still say that, God, I am angry at you. I'm so mad at you. Why you do this for me? Why you didn't do this for me? We do those things. We do when we are this. It doesn't go the way we want it to go. So me realizing this, put myself now in the position of, even though because things you are learning, it is still, you cannot just immediately just open and say, okay, Favour, come and tell me. I will still want to try to defend myself to say, no, that wasn't that. But sitting down and listening to the word of God, looking now, I begin to put myself, be representative of Christ. How do you want, how do I want how do I want my children to approach me?
That is an interesting point because I've heard people as well, and I'm gonna say this, not to be disrespectful to the parents and the adults and everybody who may be listening to this, but this is my personal conviction as a parent. If your children don't see like God or see Jesus in your behavior, you're missing the mark. If you're a parent that's always, let's go to church, let's pray, but you don't know how to say sorry, you can't communicate. Because here's what I believe. The Holy Spirit is a guider and a protector. I believe that the Holy Spirit will always step in and then even allow you as a parent to, breathe. Because the funny thing is, parents love that Bible verse about obey your parents, forgetting that it also says
that provoke not your children.
And they always forget that your children are human. And that even though you're punishing them because you're trying to teach them a lesson, they are allowed to have a human reaction. The same way as your parent, if someone was to come and just start beating you because of something you did or to shout at you, you're gonna sit there, bruv. You're gonna react. So your children are human, meaning they have the right to react as human beings. The difference is when you teach them this is disrespectful. Or there's, you can teach them okay, we're not cussing and doing all of that, but your kid's allowed to cry. Your kid's allowed to be mad at you. And I think it got to the point that also I remember you used to always not let me be angry and I would always, and it took a few, guys, this is years in the making. It would be years. And one thing is this, I'm a vocal child. Even if you're going to beat me, I'll still say it. And I think you used to get angry. But when I talk, you talk back. I'm like, yeah, because you're not listening. Oh my gosh. And it's funny, when I say that now to some African, they're like, oh my God, you talk back to your parent. I'm like, see, that's the problem. Because if I don't say anything and you don't, because if I never voiced it consistently and then God did his works and then matched it and then the Holy Spirit played his part, now for you to even allow me to even, okay, what's going on? Or even when I say, Mom, when you said that really hurt my feelings. Because you forget that you can hurt your children's feelings. Even though you think you're doing it for the right reasons, their feelings can still be hurt. And it's okay to apologize. It's okay to say, I'm sorry for raising my voice. I just got really frustrated because I've told you this multiple times. That gives your child more understanding as to not only is my parent a human being, but okay, I'm seeing this is what a walk of a Christian looks like. Because you're supposed to exemplify what a walk of a Christian is meant to look like. And I just find it very hypocritical when you hear, especially I'll hear from people that I know, and they'll be like, oh yeah, my parents are Christian, and my mom's always at church and stuff, or my dad's always at church, whatever. But the life is not reflecting it. You're in the home, that's the problem. You're bad, your temper. Let's talk about it. Your temper is gross. So where's the Holy Spirit in that? Because the fruit of the Spirit. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, that's true.
Why do the fruits of a spirit don't apply to how you raise your children? I
That's
think
big problem.
They don't think about that. And I'm not saying that children are easy to raise. That's not what I'm saying, because I'm not a mother yet.
But also the issue is that because we as parents, some parents, because I can take myself out.
Ew, not her trying to.
I can take myself out because I've done a lot of work in myself. I've dealt with many things with me, and because when I listen, as I always tell you, I say, listen, when I watch movie, I don't watch movie and just say, oh, that movie was so nice. No. I learn. I always learn something from the movie. If I watch a show, I know that, oh my God, I have to get something. If it is something I watch, there's nothing I can get in there, I'm not. I learn a lot. You will see things, you say, oh, I think in that area, I didn't know. This is the way I'm supposed to handle myself. When I listen to the preaching, I don't just take everything spiritual. I put into physical. I put Jesus, as we said, Jesus be at the center of everything. So how do I want to represent Christ in my home, in the life of my children? Do I want to behave in a certain way? Now, when I want to tell them something and they will say, you yourself, you behave this way, you do this way, and then you want to tell me anything, they won't listen to me. So because I've learned all these things, I try to make myself, I say, hey, I better start listening to these children whenever they want to say something. I better put my ego down and listen to them so that I know, because when I begin to learn, I learned it. I learned because every day we learn every day.
Come on.
The things you didn't know, I didn't know back home, I learned them here. And I know, I say, oh, this have to be this. Though it was very tough for me to be listening to you, for you to come, Mama, this is another. I said, and then so sometimes because and the way you come with that, you know,
I can't
you just because of your personalities.
I
come
with vim.
You Mama, and I say, oh, I don't want to listen.
Yeah, you're like,
and you know me, I'm those kind of person. If you come like that, as I switch, I can switch. I don't want to listen. You can talk, and I'm not listening.
Yeah,
thing where you know how to talk.
I had to learn how to like sometimes. But here's the thing as well. I also feel like it's because God. I feel like God. You knew this. There was a time in my life. It was like year 11. It's like I've always been a mature kid. But but God was like making me so mentally mature. Because I started watching, like, I would watch The Real and I would watch the Steve Harvey show. And my mom would be like, what are you getting from these things? I'm like, Mom, you don't know what I'm... Because I wasn't just watching it to be entertained. I was really listening. And I would always watch those shows and I'd listen to how people would always talk about relationships, and Steve Harvey would talk about certain things, and listening to the ladies on The Real. And because, you know, when you just said that when you watch stuff, you don't just watch it to be entertained. That's also... that transformed into me, because I never watched something just to watch for entertainment.
And you have to remember, I always ask you,
what did you
get from that?
Yes. And that made me go, if I'm watching something, my mom's gonna ask. So I need to make sure that I caught something that from here that my mom can even say, okay. Like, and it was the same with Disney. It started off with Disney, because I remember as a kid, you probably don't remember this, but I remember as a kid, you used to use Disney movies to teach me a lesson. Like, I remember, because my mom would buy me, I watched movies for days. So you would, since I remember Snow White, when Snow White had the apple from the witch, you were kind of like, do you see why you shouldn't eat food from people that you don't know? Do you see why you shouldn't do that? Pinocchio, you see, lying. Like, you use those little examples, little that you knew, that even now there's probably even more deeper lessons that you can teach your children through those stuff. But I feel like that's also applied into my life, because when I watch stuff, I don't just watch it just for entertainment's sake, but like God really allowed me and allowed my mind and my ears to be in tune to really gain something deeper. Because you even notice, like, I watch Ayana Fix My Life, and I literally would tell...
And you introduced me to Ayana Fix My Life, and I learned from it a lot.
Honestly, and I'm just saying this right now, every parent, not just African, but specifically if you are an African or Black parent, you need to watch it with an open heart and an open mind, because you watching Ayana help people. And people can have their debates about how she did things, but I feel like if you watch, you would listen to stories and you might be like, wow, that's not my life, bro.
No.
Listen carefully, because you will see that if not because of the grace of God, that would have been my life easily. The parents on the defense, or you hear, and parents, the problem is, one thing I learned so much about from Ayala is parents don't talk to their children about their lives.
Yeah.
So your children don't know you. They know mom, they know dad, but they don't know Mary. They don't know Bob. They don't know who you are, who you were when you were 13. And the worst thing is African parents, from what I've noticed, especially like I'll speak for like what I've seen of like Nigerian and even Congolese parents sometimes, they paint this perfect picture of who they were. When I was young, everybody was the top of their class, if I may add. Every African, every parent was the top of their class.
That's true.
And it's always me. I never disgraced my mother. No. Me, I never did this. I never did this. You know what's cool? And yeah, there might be a time and a place and an age to do that. But I think like slowly, it's not a bad idea to introduce your children to the real you. And because if your children love you, they won't use that as a way to like disrespect you. Because there's a difference of like, yes, you know, you can be honest and transparent with your children. Like, there's no problem with that. There's no problem with being like, you know, when I was young, like, I struggled with these things too. And like, I'm telling you that it was really hard for me. And maybe that's why even now it's very hard for me to do these things. And that's why I don't want you to do it, because I really don't want you to go through this the way that I did. And the one thing I learned from Ayala is like, you would see, like, for example, there would be like a parent, and then the parent will be like, the child will be like, I was abused. And the child is usually like a 20-year-old, 30-year-old woman. And then she'll be like, yeah, you know, that uncle that came into the house, he abused me, so and so and so and so. Mom's on the fence about if that was real or not. Then Ayana will have a moment with the mom and talk to the mom. Now Ayana will come to find out that the mom was also molested or raped by a da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And like, now there's a pattern, but the child didn't know that my mom went through that. And the mom never shared that. And then there was this one family, they went back and same thing happened to grandma. And I said, y'all, you could have prevented this. This could have been prevented by either, and obviously resources is important and stuff like that. But I'm just saying, like, yes, but here's the thing. Also, people are afraid of therapy or afraid of doing the work, because I think people, like, there's a lot of parents, they just throw prayer at their children. And I personally believe that's why you see a lot of, like, diasporan African kids who are very against Christianity. Because their parents claim to be Christians, but the life is not, it's not giving. The way you live your life is not giving. My parents are always angry. Where's the Holy Spirit in that? No, let's talk about it, because then you want your kids to come to church. You want your kids to come to church. You want your kids to be devoted, but they see how you treat, like, dads. Children will see how dads treat their mom. Kids will see how mom treat their dad. Kids will see how our parents are treating us as if we're doormats. But then you're talking about this Jesus. Make it make sense. So one thing I noticed is, like, young Christian parents are, like, recent, and from what I've been watching, they'll talk about how they pray. They're like, Lord, my kid is doing this thing. I don't know how to get through them. Guide me, help me. Instead of and I know, and look, like, I understand trauma, and there's a lot of trauma in our community, and there's a lot of pain, and our parents don't have the words to describe how they feel and all the different things. I know that privilege and grace is not there, but I also believe that my mom didn't have that. My mom doesn't go to therapy. She doesn't do all but the willingness to let God work on your heart and be open, I think is what it is. Like, but it's not to say that I still think you need to go to therapy, because I think and here's the truth, therapy is very expensive. So I pray that one day that when we have the means, I do believe that you need to go to therapy on your own. I
always say that. Because
I think it would be great for you, and it would make you, it would just, and you know what it is? I feel like you would enjoy even being a grandparent even more. Because you have done the work. And then I'll also go ahead and make sure that because like I'm in a way my own therapist, which is not necessarily a good thing, but I'm also able to, like, really pull myself out and find out where my feelings are coming from in that. And that's really because of the grace of God. Like, I'm being very honest, because not a lot of people my age know the words or even have the capability to do that. But I do say, like, people are like, oh, those shows are boring. I'm like, no, guys. This is why listening to podcasts, listening to people's stories, not just for banter, but to listen to learn, listen to understand, and listen to have empathy. It's not always good to listen and be like, oh, I'm not like that. You'd be surprised how your behavior is very similar to people that you think are wild. The only difference is either God was protecting you or you just didn't have the opportunity. You just didn't have the opportunity to go that far.
Go at the fire,
you know?
to do those
but
things.
Like, I say all that, like, I know, like, I say all that just to say that, like, just in general, my personal perspective of how you've raised me, like, I've always said that when I say I have the best mom in the world, I know everybody says that, but I really do have the best mom in the world. And like I will say this, that like really quickly, what's your thoughts on like raising children in New Zealand? Like, because I've always heard people say like it's easier to raise children. Oh no, kids who are raised back home are better than kids who are raised overseas. I've heard this discussion from the Congolese community, especially like on Solola Bien and those kind of outlets.
That is very wrong, 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 wrong. I said it wrong, 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 wrong. The kid that is raised in Africa, most of them, they're hypocrite. They're hypocrite. Yeah. They're hypocrite. That's why sometimes I always say, may they invite me into those shows. Let me tell them. They're hypocrite. And who made them to be hypocrite? Their parent. Because what they do, back home, children, even men, who are even uncles or who are even neighbors, who are even father's friend, they don't know that you can't talk to your friend 13 years old, 14 years old, calling her, touching her inappropriate, do different kind of things, telling her things, or laughing with her, or winking your eyes, that put you in the place you are a pedophile. That it is wrong to do that. But if you go, we always watch news every day. You see, 14 years old, they already been sleeping around. And if you ask them, the people say, they're neighbors. The same compound where they live. They're uncles. But for it to happen with the children that is born, raised overseas, it is hard. Why? It is hard because the children already, they know. Listen, they know that if a guy want to talk to a child who is grown overseas, who is 14, 15, and a guy is 18, they say you are a grown man. They see you as a grown man, a grown full man. They won't give you that chance.
Yeah.
Most of the time, they can go and do things with of their age mates. And also the children are willing with the parent, when the parents are not pretending, the way also the parents are behaving at home, it is also the way the children also will carry it. And when it's this kind of things, they'll be able to say, mom, do you know that uncle? You know, he was telling me this, was telling me that. They won't go and talk behind your back. They will not hide it from you. Because the way children can only say those kind of things, it is to say about that uncle. It is the way mom handle things, or allow, or dad or mom handle.
This is what I'll say, because we won't like go too much into this, but what I'll say about that point is more like, I personally feel like, yes, because those things happen here overseas as well. Like uncles are still doing the same thing. And girls still end up, or young boys still end up being molested or sexually assaulted by uncles and peoples in the community or whatever like that. Because if we're talking about that point specifically, I just feel like kids or people who are raised back home can be easily manipulated and controlled. Because the difference is like who you go run and tell. Here, I can literally call the cops. So even if my parents don't believe in me, you can go to this school. I'm not saying everybody does it, but there's more means to like actually protect a child to a certain extent.
But I think also, to be honest, as somebody who grew up back home, to be honest, I think children overseas, they are more open.
They are, but that's the thing. That's what I mean.
They're more open compared to back home. Back home, they'll do things you won't even know. They sneak out, you don't even know. But here, the overseas children, she can even go in your presence.
I get what you mean.
They can go even in your presence, and you know that this is what my child is doing.
Back home is
back home, you'll be eating your finger. You say, my children will never do this, will never do that. When your children already done more. So that's why I say that they can't say that children back home, they're doing better. So and also going into that, it depends also in the home where those children are coming from. Because the home play, people said, or my children, because they go and move out with this kid, or because they move out with because of the school, or because of the. But
It's
I
always
think
someone
what
else's fault.
spoiled was the most people that spoil children. I'm a parent. I think it is home.
Oh yeah, parent.
Yeah,
The
it
home
is
is
home.
the home is
It is
literally the
home,
yeah
because home, you may not be abusive to the children as a mother or as a father,
yeah
but that's things you do to both each other as
mm-hmm.
husband and wife
that
that will push your children to
mm-hmm.
do things or hide things from you or from their father, or do things because they don't care. They don't see the importance of whatever you are telling them.
Mm.
Or you need to do this, but they just see you. There's there's no need.
Mm-hmm.
So when they get friends or and see the friend doing things, they just say it's everywhere. So we can just move on and do everything we can do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think also
No,
yeah.
I hear that. I hear that completely. But so we're running out of time, guys. So we got to go.
Yeah.
But obviously we're gonna have another episode and more. We can have more discussions about this. If you want to hear more about, like, I guess my mom's perspective on being a migrant parent, let me know, like, in the comments and stuff. But thank you so much, Mom, for being on this episode. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, welcome.
So guys, if you want to stay connected with the podcast, please follow, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and any other outlets that people use to listen to the podcast. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end. Obviously, I'll be back next week with another episode. Definitely want to drop an episode every week. Not keen on trying to do twice a week until y'all really want me to do twice a week. But I feel like this episode would really bless somebody. So please definitely send it to your friends and family. And like, this is not just for us young people. Like, send this to your parents, because maybe it's easier for them to hear it from another parent themselves. Another parent, to hear the perspective that may help them with their relationship with you. But yeah, thank you guys so much, and stay tuned for the next episode. Bye, y'all.